I'm Mike Harper. Thanks for joining us for our initial and debut of Rocks and Dirt, a Tuxedo Cats presentation.
Yeah. And then in our first segment, we're going to talk about how to sound redneck.
This is a little bit of an experiment for our first program as we take what we would normally do before a gig, after a gig, when we're just hanging out, and talking about classic rock, talking about sports, our conversations that are always spiced up with Steve's knowledge. So without further ado, let's welcome our color commentary for our program, Steve.
We gotta get some Steve stuff. Let's see.
There you go.
Okay, so the Steve segment is not going to happen today. Apparently, Steve, you're not here.
So it's a Steveless Steve, and Steve would normally at this point be interjecting with his knowledge regarding anything from Beatles to Stones to Steely Dan to Creedence Clearwater Revival.
And then for sports, of course, he would comment on the Cowboys.
Wherein Todd and I lack woefully. We have very little information we can offer regarding the Cowboys. We talked earlier about the fact that I could tell you that they have won Super Bowls. I know a name or two. You know, like one name.
I know Roger Staubach.
There's a start. See, we build from that. But so we go.
I know Nolan Ryan and Roger Staubach. That's pretty much what I know.
Nolan Ryan, all right. Formerly Texas Ranger. Formerly a Houston Astro. He played on other teams as well. But Steve...
that's baseball.
Right, but it's sports. So we see it as you know more than you think you know.
Yeah, that's baseball you're talking about. Hey, I'm going to get a sound that like has the crack of a bat, and then right after that you hear some of this. You know, I don't need to be...
Right, anytime there's a baseball analogy, you can toss in a little crack of the bat. Or maybe a pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa. That's a baseball sound.
Let me see.
I like those. That sounds like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Is that
or
baseball?
No, that's just cool.
Yeah.
So we got baseball, we got football, and we got classic rock. And that's pretty much as much content as our brains can put together at any one podcast. But we're going to come to you weekly with ideas and Steve-isms. Because by now, Steve would have not only told us Nolan Ryan and Roger Staubach, he would have given us dates, he would have given us events, he would have given us background, he would have known their parents, their mother's maiden name. Steve has got a depth that knows no end.
Right, he would know what day the trash pickup is.
Yeah, he would know the guy's blood pressure numbers from 1972. So we have high expectations of Steve, and I have a feeling we won't be disappointed. So join us every week. We'll bring you the Monday version of Rocks and Dirt. And tell us why we came up with the name Rocks and Dirt, by the way.
Well, I was trying to tie in that we talk about music and we talk about sports.
Right.
You're giving lessons here at my place.
At the Rindley Studios.
And I love the Bluetooth that you're wearing Bluetooth, and so I don't hear but part of the conversation. And then I believe a kid wanted you to turn your phone sideways.
Yeah.
And you had it
vertical.
Vertical. And you said, well, we never had these problems when I was a kid. We just had rocks and dirt. Dirt and rocks. That's what we had.
That's all we had.
And you said, I vaguely seem to remember baseball. And I was over there laughing. And so whenever I started trying to tie music and baseball and the Tuxedo Cats together, I said, let's just call it the Tuxedo Cats Rocks and Dirt.
Rocks and Dirt, yeah. The
podcast.
Rocks are for the classic rock, and dirt for the sports, maybe.
Yes.
But if you remember the 60s, as I do, or if you do, you don't really remember them, but that's all we had. And so this is kind of a throwback. We're all old guys, and I am the oldest, so I can speak as a senior spokesperson for the group in that we have come a long way in classic rock. I love that classic rock is still here. I love that we are able to play it with the Tuxedo Cats, and that it is a genre which has stood the test of time, as has sports.
Hey, Todd.
Hey, Steve. You're on with Mike and Todd in our very first podcast, and we're trying out the phone. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
First-time caller, long-time listener?
Wow. Hey, yeah, big fan.
Yeah, we've been on a total of 5 minutes, and long time.
Well, so we've got
Cool.
Steve now. We've been dancing here trying to cover all the bases, but we knew that you'd be able to help us with any questions that might come up. The phone lines are open, by the way, at 903. What's your phone number?
2112.
2112. There, let's start right there, Steve.
That's a Rush name.
Talk about
So this is real. This is on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
2112. Talk about the 2112 Rush album. What you remember about it and what you love about it.
It's one of my favorites, and it was kind of their. If you ever see the Rush documentary, that's on Netflix, it's great. They talk about how they were about to lose their record deal because their first album sold pretty good, but then their following two didn't sell quite as much, and they were on the road a lot. They were starting to get more, progressive with their music, and the label was like, well, why can't you sound more like Bad Company or Bachman Turner Overdrive and all these bands that were more, bluesy, straight ahead rock, which was pretty much kind of what Rush did on their first album. But they said, no, we're going to do what we're going to do, and they were probably going to be dropped from their label. And they said, well, if we're going to go down, we're going to go down doing In Flames, doing what we want to do. And of course, it was a big hit, and it broke the band.
Yeah,
and they had albums that were much bigger later, but the first side is a concept about a futuristic totalitarian society, and the music's great. It's real. It's still straight ahead rock. There's a little bit of progginess in there, but it's mostly it's really rocking.
And what year did that come out? What year was the 2112?
1976, April Fool's Day, 1976. I just found out
interesting.
Recently on April Fool's, somebody posted on Facebook, 2112 came out today on April 1st, 1976 or whatever. So it was their fourth album. I discovered it, and I didn't get into Rush until around 4 or 5 years later when Moving Pictures came out, and I was 12.
You were like in middle school by that time, I think.
Yeah, so I went back and bought the old Rush albums, and of course that one really stuck out as it's one of their best. It's
That's the reason that I have the phone number 2112 was because of Rush. And 2112 is the number of the airport.
That's YYZ.
That's YYZ.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I didn't know that.
What is it? What was YYZ? That's Morse code. No, what is it?
It's the airport code. You know how every airport has a 3-letter code. That
right.
Your luggage,
YYZ.
like
that's
or it would be LAX.
Canada somewhere.
YYZ is the one, or the Canadians and the Brits and everyone else except us call the letter ZZ. I didn't even know that until recently. So they call it YYZ.
Oh, wow.
All right.
But we call it YYZ, and that's the Toronto airport.
And that's where Led Zeppelin got their name.
DFW, if we're flying from the DFW airport.
Wait a minute. Todd just said that's where Led Zeppelin got their name.
Led Zeppelin came up with their name. That was YYZ.
Is that right?
Also, about YYZ, you're right about the Morse code. The opening, the dun 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 over and over. That's Morse code for YYZ.
I remember that. I told you.
Yeah,
I told you.
I don't know anything about Morse code, but if you look at the dots and the dashes and everything, and it kind of matches up.
Well, it just shows to go, Steve, that we can all learn something here on Rocks and Dirt. Now, I didn't know that. I didn't know that about Rush, and I love the fact that they, like you said, they were on their fourth album, and they were struggling to some extent, and they stuck with their guns. Yeah. And they said, "This is who we are, and if we have to go down, we're going to go down in flames, doing what we believe in." And I think we can all learn a lesson from that today here on Rocks and Dirt.
And on the next episode, we're going to talk about the Cowboys and their winning streak.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good tease there.
We're pretty sure there's going to be one someday.
All right,
but anyway.
I'm
sorry I brought that up.
For Steve Graham, Todd Rindley, I'm Mike Harper. This is the first installment of Rocks and Dirt, a Tuxedo Cats production. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you've learned something, and I hope you join us next week. For all of us, good night, and may God bless.
Bye, Steve.
Bye.
We'll see you tonight.